Fear and disbelief in Hanau. People gather to stand up to hate and xenophobia. One of the mourners, Germany's president.
I'm standing with people who are threatened by hate and violence. Together we stand side by side against violence and language that degrades and excludes people, that all too often paves the way for violent acts.
One night earlier in Hanau, a 43-year-old German national killed 9 people on a shooting rampage, most of them of Turkish and Kurdish descent. The suspect was later found dead in his home. His mother also shot dead. He was a member of a gun club and was not on the authorities' radar. Germany's Attorney General has taken over the investigation. He said the suspect wanted to send a provocative message.
The
suspect's webpage contained a video message and a kind of manifesto. They're full of confused thoughts and conspiracy theories, but also a profoundly racist mindset.
In Berlin, Chancellor Angela Merkel condemned the violence.
Racism is a poison. Hate is a poison. And this poison exists in our society and is responsible for far too many crimes. We don't distinguish citizens according to their background or religion. We stand with all our strength and determination against all those who try to divide Germany.
Berliners gathered at the Brandenburg Gate to show solidarity with the victims. Even more marched through the multicultural district Neukölln to show their courage, anger and grief.
One of those injured is a good friend of mine. What has happened has really affected me. The bar was a place I had often been to.
It gives me heartache. We've experienced violence in our countries. We've come to Germany as refugees, only to experience it again here in Germany. And that really hurts.
The problem is getting worse, but Germany is a rich country. Things are good here. And in the state of Hessen too. I really don't understand it.
Many are demanding answers as to how right-wing terror has been able to spread in recent years.
The killings have completely shaken Hanau. The city has a population of about 100,000 with a wide range of ethnic backgrounds. The Confederation of Kurds in Germany has confirmed that several of the dead did have Kurdish origins. We met with some of the family members of those killed in the attacks.
Many members of the Kurdish community have gathered at this cultural centre on the outskirts of Hanau, in shock and in solidarity with a family who lost their eldest son on Wednesday night. The grieving mother and father of the victim needed medical attention. They haven't slept since they learnt about the death of their son, Ferhat. One close relative tells us what happened in the shisha bar.
Ferhat is my cousin.
Ferhat is my cousin. I only know I got a call at 11 p.m. from his friends that he was taken from us. He was about to leave the bar, just wanted to finish his meal. He had just passed his exams a week ago. We were going to work together. We've been talking about that a lot.
What upsets him and many here is that they are still seen as outsiders despite living in Hanau for generations.
His grandfather came here in the 50s as a construction worker and helped build Hanau. His father grew up here. Ferhat was born here. He graduated and went to a German school. The only thing that differentiated him from the Germans is how he looked. If now we are just reduced to the way we look, that has nothing to do with democracy.
Across town at a youth project, Nazim Turan echoes that view.
This xenophobia has reached the center of our society, and we Germans with a migration background, we feel this. Mostly I feel German. I was born here, but I see from my appearance that others, the real Germans, think I don't belong here. It's just so sad.
Preparing placards for a vigil in Hanau. Nazim and his friends were shocked when they first heard of the attack. It happened in their shisha bar in the city centre. It's a place they regularly meet and hang out.
I think I was there at the shisha bar 2 weeks ago. We were there with friends, smoking shisha. It makes me tremble. It could have been me or my sister.
Nazim told us 3 people he knew lost a close relative in the shooting, and that terrorist attacks always seemed like something that happened to other people. But sadly now it's a reality that has touched many here.
Let's talk more about this now with DW's political correspondent Hans Brandt joining me here in the studio, and DW correspondent Arpad Sosi on the ground for us in Hanau. Arpad, can you tell us where you are right now and what's happening this morning in Hanau?
Yes, I'm in front of the first shooting area, which was the Midnight Sports Bar, directly behind me to my right. And it's still a cordoned-off area, an area under investigation by the police and forensic investigators. And they're still looking at any possible clues that will give them a very exact timeline of the shooter and his actions a couple of days ago when he started on his rampage at about 10 minutes after 10 in the evening, Central European time. And they're also interviewing people, and they are talking to some of the survivors who are recovering from their wounds in hospital. They're all trying to put together a picture of things. And now we also have some information about some of the victims. I can confirm now, as we heard in a report, most of the victims were of Turkish origin, but not all. For example, there is a Romanian national now confirmed. The Romanian Foreign Ministry has confirmed that German authorities have told them that one of the victims is a Romanian national. He comes from Giurgiu, in Romania. He's 23 years old. His name is Vili Paun. And the tragedy is that he and his family moved here to Germany to start a new life. He was the parents' only child. And what had happened was he was shot literally in front of that Midnight Sports Bar. He had stepped out of his car, just finished his work as a courier, and the shooter had apparently just seen him as he was about to get into his own car and decided he looks a little bit foreign, shot him dead. The man didn't even know what was happening. He didn't know that there had been a shooting just seconds earlier in the Midnight Sports Bar. So a tragedy all around.
Hans, there's been an outpouring of public sympathy for what's happened. Is this in many ways a watershed moment for the country?
Several politicians have described it as that. Certainly it is an incident of almost unprecedented severity in Germany. It has been many years since we had this many dead in a similar sort of incident of right-wing extremist violence. And it was a moment, at least, in which German political life came to a standstill yesterday. A moment of reflection also about where the country is situated at the moment, what is happening in the country. Whether indeed it can be described as a watershed, I guess we can only say after a while, to see whether there was a clear before and after this incident, whether as a result of this incident, the way politics works, the way radical right-wing extremism is combated in Germany and so on, whether those things are going to change. But certainly it was a moment, a very somber moment, and a moment of reflection and standstill in German political life.
The country's Attorney General has taken on the investigation now and is treating this as a case of domestic terrorism and not looking so much as into the attack as being motivated by racial hatred, which it was, more of domestic terrorism. What's the distinction between the two?
Well, the very fact that the federal prosecutor has taken this case on indicates that it is regarded as a case that has significance for Germany as a whole and is regarded as a potential threat to the German state or to stability in Germany. In other words, that it is a potentially terrorist attack. Whether one defines it as that in a kind of legal sense, I think depends to some extent on whether this person was acting on his own, whether he was acting on the basis of a clear political ideology, whether he was bound into a kind of network, whether there were supporters, people that he talked to, possibly people who knew beforehand that this was going to happen. Several politicians have called it an act of terror, or an act of terrorism, and certainly that's been the effect on parts of the society. But I think in legal terms, those people, like the federal prosecutor who have to deal with the legal issues, are careful at the moment to call it that precisely a terrorist act.
Okay, this potential act of terrorism is being looked into has united all of the country's major political parties against the far-right populist Alternative for Germany party, the AfD. Let's listen to what the leader of the governing Christian Democrats had to say about the AfD after the shootings.
Regardless of what the perpetrator is judged to have been, it appears evident that he was motivated by racist and anti-foreigner views, and that amounts to a far-right motivation. And that strengthens my position that the CDU, and not just the CDU but all political parties in Germany, must always adamantly oppose any collaboration with a political party that, at least in part, tolerates right-wing extremists, and I have no problem saying Nazis, in its own ranks, and which plants the seed in the national political landscape for precisely this kind of ideology.
Hans, the AfD is the third largest party in the German parliament. Is any cooperation with the AfD now unlikely for the foreseeable future?
Well, it was unlikely before this incident. The Christian Democrat, the Conservative Party of Angela Merkel and Annegret Kramp-Karrenbauer, whom we've just heard, have a party congress decision that they are not going to cooperate with the AfD. But against the background of this action, of these murders, of this terror attack, it has become even more unlikely, impossible to cooperate with this party. The Alternative for Germany party says that this incident is being instrumentalized to gain political points against it. But one has to say this party has based its own policies on anti-foreigner sentiment, on criticizing the democratic processes in this country, on questioning the legitimacy of people like Angela Merkel being chancellor in this country. And there are parts in this party that certainly are, as we've just heard in this clip, that certainly are Nazis, that are people that want to establish a kind of Nazi state in Germany. And certainly those are kind of sentiments that are reflected in this in the ideology that the attacker in Hanau actually supported and put down in his manifesto. So there's certainly some kind of ideological connection between what the AfD stands for and what this action, this terrorist act, this racist act was based on.
Art, what are people saying where you are in Hanau about what needs to change, what needs to happen in light of these shootings?
They need more security. They need to know that they are welcome here. A lot of these people are second-generation Germans. In other words, their parents came from other countries and settled here, or they were children when they came here. They grew up here. This is their country also, and they want to have. They want to know that that is respected and looked at by everyone. I mean, on Thursday, German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier said, "Be careful what you say. Be careful about your language." He was addressing everyone in the country because of the sensitivities and about how things can be taken badly in the wrong, taken as a wrong opinion, and also influence other people about, perhaps going right-wing. So everyone has to be careful. And now today, later on today at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, there is going to be a demonstration against what has happened, against racism here in the city, where people are trying to come together and find some sanity in a situation that is anything but.
Okay, we'll have more on that demonstration coming up later today in Hanau. For now, Arpad Sosi in Hanau, thanks so very much. And Hans Brandt here in the studio, thanks as well.